Hi, welcome to this audio webinar, which is going to talk about how you use the information form, which is provided in the pack as part of the STEM Professionals training. The point of the information form is many-fold, really, but one good place to start is actually building rapport with your clients, isn't it? And if you do this well, nice and clearly, working through it bit by bit, you'll actually gain your clients' trust, respect. They'll really feel like you're a serious professional. So make sure you have it nicely printed, ready. It's often a good idea to give them a copy. You might even, in some circumstances, give them a copy before they arrive. That can work with some clients. But the important thing is that you work through it systematically and you listen to what your clients are saying and really pick up on the important points. I hope that will become clearer as I talk. So let's start. So we'll begin with their history. So begin with asking them a very simple question: what do they weigh now? Now, you may find that quite a few clients actually don't weigh themselves, and this isn't a problem unless it's something which they are really very fearful of, in which case this might mean they're not really facing up to their issues. But sometimes people don't weigh themselves, but they've got a good idea about their clothes size, and that can work just as well. So they go with what the client is telling you. However, I do keep a set of scales in my consulting room, because if a client has just become so terrified of how much they weigh, it can be a good, safe environment and a supportive environment that you're creating with them to actually weigh them in your consulting room. So that's something to choose with the individual client. So after you've found out what they weigh now or what their clothes size is now, you then will want to know what their history of weight gain has been. So what I usually ask them here is what the lightest they've ever been as an adult is. Now, if there's someone who's well advanced into middle years, that might not be too appropriate, and it might be better to ask them, how much did you weigh 5 years ago, then 10 years ago? Even if you do start with saying, what's the lightest you've ever been as an adult, then ask them more questions about how their weight's gone up and gone down over their life, because you want to get a picture of that. There can be different patterns. You can find generally increase their weight right throughout their life, or people that have gone up and down according to different life circumstances. It can be a whole range of things which you can begin to discover. And I hope you're already getting the picture that these quite simple sounding questions can actually reveal a very great deal with your clients. So once you've explored that, then move on to asking when they began to eat badly. Now, I'm never afraid of using words like badly, because being overweight is very deleterious to their health and their well-being, and I don't pussyfoot around that. But you might feel that in some circumstances a word like badly isn't the best word to use. So when did you start eating in a way that's leading you to put on weight might be less loaded, yeah, and you'll fit that to your own style as well. But you do need to find out if they've always had unhealthy eating patterns, which some people have, or if something happened in their lives that sent them off track and they ended up eating badly. And that can be interesting in itself, because you might find that there's emotional trauma there which you'll need to deal with. You might find it was just a change of habit, a change of lifestyle, which you can then work with that to start to put that right. Ask them what was going on in their life when they began to eat in a way that has led to them putting on weight. That can be very interesting. It doesn't need to be something which was unfortunate. It can be things like they began to live with someone who ate a lot more than them, who drank a lot more than them, or who ate out a lot. That can be there. Often it can be changes of jobs. It can often be with the client group we're talking about. Often people will travel a lot for work. It can be traveling for work when it's very, very difficult, as I'm sure a lot of you will know personally, to get decent food. So there's all those things, but really explore this. You're finding out everything you need to know about the client as part of this process, and you're building that relationship of trust with your client. Now, the next thing you want to move on to is asking the client about their history of dieting, controlling what they eat. There are several reasons for exploring this. One is you want to find out if they have a history of trying to lose weight and failing, and therefore feeling they're setting themselves up for failure again, that they don't really trust the process which you're using with them. And it can be good to find that out early rather than later. Or you can find people have an unhealthy relationship with food because they've tried to diet so much that they will have eaten unhealthy food, they won't have eaten enough, they will have been on various fad diets. You can even find problems going back to childhood. I've had a lot more than one client, quite a few clients who were taken to diet clubs by their mothers when they were as young as 9 or 10. So you can have all these family reasons, historical reasons why people have developed an unhealthy eating pattern, and exploring their history of dieting is quite good to get to the bottom of this. Also, if they have dieted and lost weight, ask them at this stage how much they weighed when they stopped dieting. The point of this is that you will sometimes find that some people can manage to lose a bit of weight, and then it's almost like a horse approaching a fence. They suddenly then lose confidence in themselves and go backwards, begin to eat badly again. And that question can begin to identify this. Or you can find people have unrealistic expectations of being lighter. Now, I'm a great advocate for people being lighter, both for their health and also for their general well-being and their general success in life. It's well documented that if you are lighter, thinner, healthier, you are more likely to succeed. People are more likely to take you seriously, and our client group here are going to be right at the cutting edge of this. However, some people do believe that if they lose a couple of stone, then somehow everything will be milk and honey. They will be living in a perfect world. And you may begin to uncover some of that at this point. Again, that's something which is useful to know. So really, that is as long as you need to go through these questions. Often I'll spend a whole first session just dealing with this information take, and it is well worth it. So you've got a bit of the history now, and you may at this point decide to do some more timeline work, especially if you have found bad eating patterns dating back to early childhood, or if you found a particular trauma or set of traumas has led to bad eating patterns. It might be worth using your skills in taking a more detailed timeline at this point. If not, then at that point I would move on to asking the client about their current patterns of eating. A lot of these things are habit. Some of it can be compensating for emotions, but you need to know what's going on in order to be able to assess with the client, discuss with the client why they're doing what they're doing. So the most important question probably is to find out when they overeat. And especially with the client group that we're talking about here, you may find that they have very disordered eating patterns because of being pressured at work, time poor at work, because of a lot of traveling, because of stress and being frequently pressurized, perhaps feeling nervous and so not being able to eat, and then perhaps coming home and binge eating. That's quite a common pattern. So find out when they overeat. And also turn that question around as well. Make it a solution-focused question. Ask them when they don't overeat. This can be a very enlightening exercise. You can find that clients, for example, will eat very well, very healthily when they're on holiday. When they're away from that stress daily routine, their patterns are much better. Then ask what the most enjoyable food they eat is. This is a very important and interesting question, particularly as we're finding out more and more all the time about the relationship between food and stress. And you may well find the client replies that they eat lots of sugary, carb-heavy foods when they're either starving because they've kept going for a very long time without eating anything, or they may be eating those sorts of foods when they're anxious, perhaps picking while they're at their desk or before they go into an important meeting, this sort of thing. But finding out these patterns, using the information in your Slim Professionals pack, doing some further reading so you get a good picture of why physiologically people eat certain foods at certain times and what emotional factors are working there as well. Now, moving on to emotional factors, it's very common for people who eat badly to have their, what they will call terms like their special bad food, or often people will have some sort of name or phrase for this type of food. And this sort of eating is often very emotionally loaded. We want to find out about that. So explore this by asking if they know when they're going to eat a food which they know is making them fat or is going to make them fat. And again, I've used the term bad food here, which I don't object to. Some foods are bad. Donuts are bad, full stop. Yeah, no question about it. So I don't mind using those terms, but if you have the sort of client who's really bashing themselves up and going on about, you know, how bad they are, it might not be best to use that sort of language, and you might want to change the language with that sort of client. So talk about carb-heavy foods, sugary foods, whatever seems appropriate. But find out if they are sending themselves emotional signals leading up to eating these sorts of foods, because you will often find that they will say that they're feeling very stressed, or that they are feeling extremely tired, or it can be a whole number of things. But it's very, very useful to find out what they're doing, why they think they're doing it, and you can begin to see what patterns underlie that. Okay, now I'm going to leave it at this stage. We'll move on to the rest of the information form in the next audio. But what I would like you to do between now and then is have a look at these questions, work with them, change any of them to fit your own style of therapy, the way that you build rapport. Think about what you would glean from different answers. Think about any problems that could arise from answers to any of these questions. Think about directions in which they might lead you, and think about how they can possibly suggest solutions, because some of those things will come up in the questions at the end of this module. I hope you found that useful, and I'll see you as soon as you can make it for the second part of this short sessions on gathering information. So thank you very much, and I will talk to you again soon.